Chosen one, there is something in the way you simply enter a space that makes it breathe differently. It is not a noise, not a dramatic gesture, nor an announcement. It is presence, refined and whole, that does the speaking for you. You are not chasing attention, you are not screaming for validation, and yet the entire atmosphere bends slightly in your favor the moment your steps land. Feminine women feel it first. They don't know why they suddenly feel more alert, more alive, more aware of themselves, but they do. It is as if their senses remember something their mind hasn't caught up to yet, as if their bones are responding to a signal ancient and deeply coded. You are not performing. You're not strutting like a peacock seeking eyes. Your swagger is not a costume, but an outflow of internal certainty. It comes not from vanity, but from alignment. Your shoulders roll back not because you were taught posture, but because you know who you are. You know where you're going. And that confidence, not the loud, exhausting kind, but the quiet, unfakeable kind, moves through you like rhythm. Every step is calm, every breath is composed, every pause is intentional. It doesn't matter what you wear, how tall you are, or what car you drove to get there. What they feel is something far beyond image. Feminine women, deeply intuitive, instinctive by nature, feel you in ways they can't explain. It's not just the way you move. It's the meaning behind your movement. It's not the walk, it's the weight of it. You don't walk to impress. You walk because you have somewhere within you that's already arrived. That paradox stuns them. You don't need to approach anyone, and yet their eyes follow you. Not because you asked them to, but because you left a trail of resonance in the air that they couldn't ignore. You're the man who could speak, but doesn't need to. The one who could dominate, but chooses to carry. And in that choice, there is such strength that it draws the feminine like a current. They don't admire you for what you say. They are thrilled by the fact that your silence doesn't shrink, that your energy doesn't overreach, that you don't compete with the noise. You let the noise burn itself out around your stillness. This, chosen one, is why feminine women look twice. Not because you chase them, but because you remind them what it feels like to be around something solid. You don't dissolve in the crowd, you shape it by contrast. You don't clamor for affirmation, you command reflection. They walk away from moments with you feeling more beautiful, not because you complimented them, but because your stillness told them you are seen. That's what thrills them, that's what haunts them. You carry an energy that doesn't want anything from them, and yet they want everything from you. And when you pass by, chosen one, and offer not a glance but a grounded, momentary gaze, everything inside them stirs, not because you flirted, but because you didn't have to. Chosen one, what you carry cannot be mimicked, sold, or taught in 10 steps. Swagger, in your case, is not something you practiced, it's something that was forged. It came from choosing depth when the world begged you to stay shallow. It came from mastering your impulses when others gave in to theirs. It came from sitting with your pain, walking with your flaws, and rising from your trials with grace, not ego. This is why your walk, your presence, your tone of voice, all of it carries a frequency that makes the feminine pause, lean in, and wonder, who is that? You are not magnetic because you try to be. You are magnetic because you've become the kind of man whose energy wraps around the atmosphere like gravity. Your swagger is the byproduct of clarity. You walk like someone who isn't searching, but someone who's already found. You move like a man who is not trying to be desirable, he simply is. Feminine women are not pulled by your appearance alone. Chosen one, they are pulled by your resonance. It hums through your posture, your breath, the timing of your steps, the calm with which you observe everything. It makes their stomach flutter, their minds go quiet, their hearts open without effort. And here's what sets you apart even more. You don't need the reaction. You don't weaponize your allure. You don't count stares or feed off praise. You are not a man who performs to be seen. You are the man who is so deeply present, so embodied in his own energy, that being seen is a side effect, not a mission. And this subtlety is what thrills feminine women the most. They've met men who tried to be alphas. They've been around boys who postured, puffed up, bragged, or chased. But they rarely encounter a man who is unmoved by the need to impress. You are that rare man, chosen one. The one whose stride is balanced not just in body, but in essence. They don't thrill at you because you do tricks for attention. They thrill because your stillness is louder than their own thoughts. You are not a void to be filled. You are a flame, slow burning, steady, and untouchable. That is why they begin to touch their hair, adjust their earrings, glance down and back up again when you walk past. That is why they lean in your direction even when they're talking to someone else. That is why they remember how you made them feel. Not nervous, not confused, but seen, and perhaps for the first time, safe to surrender. You don't walk like a man who needs a woman. You walk like a man who honors women because he honors himself. And that truth, spoken not with words, but with every motion, every still breath, thrills them in a way they rarely admit out loud. You do not chase beauty. You carry it. You do not seek power. You are it. And every feminine woman who's ever longed for more than surface-level attention finds herself awakening in your presence. Not because you asked her to, but because she feels you before she even knows your name. That, chosen one, is the kind of swagger that echoes long after you've gone. Not because it was flashy, but because it was real. Chosen one, your presence does not knock. It seeps in like light under a locked door. It enters first through the soul and only later through the senses. Feminine women don't just notice you. They feel you, often before they know why. And it is not your face, your clothing, or even your body that strikes them first. It is the subtle, powerful signal of depth beneath your calm. A quiet that isn't empty. A silence that isn't unsure. It is the richness of a man who has met himself in dark places and returned with grace, not bitterness. That kind of depth cannot be faked. It cannot be rehearsed. It arrives only when a man has become his own foundation, and you, chosen one, are that man. Women often speak of energy, of vibration, of intuitive knowing, and when they speak of you, they are not exaggerating. Because the moment you step into their space, their feminine instinct awakens. She senses that you are not looking for entertainment, nor for someone to validate you. You are here, fully, and that presence says more than words ever could. She does not feel scrutinized around you. She feels acknowledged. You are not staring, you are witnessing. Not measuring her value, but seeing her essence. And that witnessing has a purity to it, the kind that disarms defenses before she even knows they were there. Your swagger, chosen one, is not performative. It's a result of integrity. The way you move isn't a learned tactic. It's the natural rhythm of a man who has nothing to prove. And so she doesn't feel tension around you. She feels possibility. A space opens in her, one that often lies dormant in a world filled with shallow gazes and impatient hands. You don't reach, you hold. You don't demand, you invite. And in this sacred invitation, something ancient stirs within her. Not just desire, but recognition. She feels seen by you because you are seeing yourself deeply. She feels safe around you because you are safe within yourself. You are not flinching from your shadows, and therefore she is free to reveal hers. And this is why her body softens, why her voice becomes warmer, why her eyes don't dart around looking for escape. You create no pressure, and yet your very nearness makes her want to come closer. That is the paradox of your power. You do not chase, and yet everything is drawn to you. She may try to explain it later, to her friends, to herself, but the truth is, there are no perfect words for why your energy stuns her. She might say it's confidence, or charisma, or poise, but none of that fully captures what truly happened in her chest the moment you stepped near. What she truly felt was permission. Permission to feel, to breathe, to open, to trust, even if just for a moment. And all of it came not from some trick, but from your authentic frequency, your unwavering calm, your total refusal to shrink or shout. That's why she remembers your silence more than another man's words. That's why your gaze stays with her longer than a stranger's compliment. That's why your walk across the room leaves more impact than an hour-long conversation. It's because your presence carries depth, and for the feminine, true depth is the most intimate thrill of all. Chosen one, there's a secret about feminine women that few understand. They don't want to be pushed, pressured, or chased. They want to be moved. Not by dominance, not by cleverness, but by truthful power. And that's what your swagger offers, not a shout, but a signal. It is the movement of a man who does not need to take control, because he already has it. Control over his breath, over his time, over his reactions. Your swagger is not a swing of ego. It is the grounded sway of a king who does not need a crown. She watches the way you enter, not with hunger in your eyes, but with presence in your spine. You are not calculating outcomes. You are not measuring your worth through the glances of others. You are simply being. And that simple, unshakable being makes her body feel things she hasn't felt in years. Not just arousal, but alignment. Because for the feminine, attraction is not about status, it's about safety wrapped in fire. And your energy, chosen one, is exactly that. You bring no threat, yet you ignite her. You press nothing on her, and yet you pull something from her. She begins to touch her hair more. She laughs at things more softly. Her eyes linger longer, her steps slow. This isn't because you said something charming. It's because you've unlocked something. You've given her a mirror of what it looks like when a man truly owns his sexual energy. Not spills it, not leaks it, but carries it with reverence. And in that carrying, you tell her without words, "You don't need to seduce me. I already see your radiance." And that message reaches her nervous system, her intuition, and her heart all at once. She doesn't feel like she has to compete for your attention, because your attention isn't scattered, it's chosen. And chosen presence is the most thrilling gift a woman can receive. It means you are not here to take, but to meet. You are not here to escape yourself, but to bring all of yourself to the moment. And that is the swagger of the sacred masculine, not a walk of arrogance, but a walk of wholeness. Even in silence, your energy moves. It doesn't rush, it doesn't beg, it pulses gently like gravity, inviting everything feminine to dance, to trust, to breathe deeper. That is why she blushes. That is why she begins to feel seen without being overwhelmed. That is why her body begins to lean without her realizing it. You didn't say a word, but your walk, your posture, your grounded masculinity said everything she needed to hear. You are not a thrill because you excite her, though you do. You are a thrill because you remind her of something. That strength can be gentle, that fire can be patient, that power can be beautiful. And when she sees that in you, chosen one, she begins to fall, not into fantasy, but into a deeper version of herself. Because your swagger didn't just attract her, it freed her. Chosen one, you do not conquer space, you inhabit it. While others attempt to impress with noise, gestures, and empty displays, you command attention through the power of stillness. There is an art to it, a presence that whispers instead of shouts, but still fills the room more completely than anything loud ever could. Feminine women don't know why they look toward you first, even when surrounded by a sea of motion, but they always do. Something about the quiet you carry makes them feel safe, stirred, and seen all at once. And what thrills them most is not what you do, but what you don't do. You don't rush, you don't clamor for approval. You don't move like you've lost something or are trying to be chosen. You walk like a man who already belongs, not to the room, not to the people in it, but to himself. And that belonging radiates outward in a way that makes every feminine heart remember something ancient. It's not the movement that moves her, it's the stillness that holds 1,000 movements inside it. It's the restraint that hints at fire. It's the silence that suggests depth, and it's the swagger that doesn't say, "Look at me," but rather, "I am." You are the kind of man who thrills a woman not by chasing her, but by not needing to. She feels it in your every breath, every pause, every subtle tilt of the head. There is no hunger in your gaze, yet she feels devoured, in the most sacred, honored way. There is no desperation in your body, yet her own responds like it's found a magnetic pull it didn't know it was missing. She sits straighter, touches her throat, laughs a little more freely, but not to impress you. No, it's because around you, she can relax into being fully feminine. You are not here to judge her. You are here to witness her. And that witnessing is so rare, so unexpected, it electrifies her. This is the gift of your stillness, chosen one. It is not passive. It is deeply charged. It carries the tension of a man who could reach but doesn't need to. A man who could pursue but would rather attract. A man who knows that the feminine doesn't want to be overwhelmed. She wants to be invited. And your presence is that invitation, extended without pressure, carried in your breath, wrapped in your dignity. It says you are free to come closer, but only if you feel safe enough to bring your soul with you. She senses that you're not like the others, not because you said so, but because you didn't say so. You let her discover it through your pacing, your poise, your grounded awareness. You never rush to fill a silence. You never need to dominate the energy of a space, because you've already mastered the one thing most men avoid facing, themselves. And in that mastery, you've become a lighthouse, not a storm. She doesn't feel the urge to run from you. She feels the urge to return to herself in your presence. That is what your swagger means, chosen one. Not flamboyance, not flash, but a deep, masculine quiet that draws in the feminine because it reminds her of something real, something safe, something primal, something holy. Your swagger is not about steps, it's a language. It's how your energy speaks before your mouth ever opens. You don't walk like a man who's uncertain. You walk like a man who already knows that every path you step on becomes better simply because your energy touched it. You're not rushing to arrive anywhere because you understand that your presence is the arrival. And feminine women who are fluent in feeling hear every word your posture speaks. They read your shoulders like scripture. They interpret the tempo of your stride like music. They feel the rhythm of your hips as an invitation, not into lust, but into safety, protection, alignment. You don't walk to be seen, but you are, because every step carries a message. I'm not chasing anyone. I'm not proving anything. I'm simply being, and that is enough. And this message resonates with the feminine at levels she didn't know she needed. She's used to movement that screams insecurity, men who fidget, flex, force. But you walk differently. You walk like someone who is fully acquainted with his own body, his own desires, his own stillness. That awareness is intoxicating. That composure, thrilling. And your swagger doesn't just speak to her, it speaks through her. It moves something in her hips, stirs something behind her eyes, melts something locked in her chest. It awakens the feminine essence that's been waiting for someone who wouldn't trample it. You are not racing toward her, and so she can unfold without fear. You are not devouring her with need, and so she can offer without being emptied. You are not shrouded in performance, and that in a world obsessed with masks is revolutionary. Every time you walk by, you leave behind a kind of permission. You didn't ask for her attention, yet she gives it. Not because she is bored or curious, but because her spirit is drawn. She watches how you move, how you own your presence, how you carry your sensuality with discipline, not indulgence. And that discipline is rare. It says, I know what I am capable of, but I don't need to display it for approval. And that kind of knowing, silent, certain, sacred, calls to the deepest part of her that still believes in real men. Not boys with words, men with weight. You became that weight, chosen one, not by trying, but by becoming. You didn't walk into the room to conquer it, you walked in to bless it. And that difference, unspoken but felt, makes all the difference. Women remember your walk long after your shadow is gone. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was anchored. Not because it asked for attention, but because it deserved it. That's what your swagger is, chosen one. It's not a performance. It's a frequency, a pulse of masculine energy that does not overpower, but elevates. And in a world full of noise, that quiet confidence makes you unforgettable. Not because you demanded love, but because you embodied it. Chosen one. Something sacred happens when a feminine woman encounters your presence. It is not just the reaction of attraction, it is a deeper recognition, the kind that bypasses thought entirely and settles in her body like memory. Around you, she is not simply excited, she is reminded of what a real man feels like, of what her own femininity has been craving without words. And she sees it not because you preach it or announce it, but because you embody it, so naturally, so unshakably that it stirs her more than any romantic words ever could. You do not enter the room looking for praise. You walk in like the sun walks into the morning sky, undeniable, patient, majestic. And in that silent approach, her soul stands up a little straighter. You have become the mirror of her inner longing, chosen one. Not because you conform to an image, but because you reflect the energy she instinctively yearns to lean into. You do not need to tame her. You only need to be, and the force of your being naturally invites her to soften. In your company, she doesn't feel the pressure to perform or please. She feels the safety to relax, because your presence does not devour, it holds. It doesn't hover, it shelters. It doesn't dominate, it dignifies. And that kind of masculine essence is so rare, it leaves echoes in her spirit long after you've gone. You don't tell her you're different. You simply move differently. You breathe with the ease of someone who has met chaos and made peace with it. You walk with the calm of a man who no longer fights for attention because he is attention. She studies you, not like an object, but like a truth she's been waiting to find. She feels herself coming alive in your presence, not because you say the right things, but because your energy says everything her soul needed to hear. And she hears it through your grounded silence, through your unbothered gaze, through your refusal to chase what is not meant for you. Your swagger is not merely style, it's a language of assurance. It communicates, I know who I am, I know what I bring, I have nothing to hide and nothing to prove. And that message soaks into the deepest places of her being. Because in a world where men either overreach or hide, you are the rare example of a man who stands. Unmoved by trends, untouched by desperation, you have become the masculine axis that gives her freedom to spin. And in that axis, she is not lost. She is found. Her body knows this before her mind does. That's why her voice lowers when speaking to you. That's why her touch lingers slightly longer. That's why her laugh becomes warmer, her posture subtly more open, her breath steadier. Not because you asked anything from her, but because she wants to give. That is the most sacred thrill of the feminine, to offer herself willingly, trustingly, without fear. And you, chosen one, have become the kind of man who can receive that without misuse or ego. You take nothing, but everything is given. This is the silent magic of your being. You didn't arrive to prove anything, but you became everything. And for a feminine woman who has grown tired of masks and empty hands, your presence is the long-awaited return of what she thought only existed in dreams. Not perfection, but truth. And when truth arrives, she blooms. Chosen one, you've reached a frequency that cannot be explained with ordinary words. You have stepped into such magnetic calm, such embodied presence, that when a feminine woman feels you near, everything else dims in comparison. She may be in the middle of a conversation, laughter on her lips, but the moment she senses your approach, her world narrows. Her attention, without warning, slides toward your energy. It's not just physical, it's spiritual. Her body reacts before her thoughts can arrange a defense. Her chest flutters with something she hasn't felt since she was a girl. Mystery, wonder, reverence. And not because you're flashy or loud, but because you don't need to be. You see, chosen one, what makes you unforgettable is not your looks or your voice, it's your stillness. Your ability to walk into a space and bring it into balance. While others stir chaos, you stabilize. While others try to dominate, you integrate. And the feminine feels that contrast so deeply that it makes her breath catch. It's not intimidation, it's awe. Because your energy doesn't try to possess or push, it invites. And that invitation is one she has been waiting a lifetime to receive. You don't need to touch her to affect her. She feels your nearness like gravity. She feels the warmth of your focus even if your eyes are across the room. She begins to wonder why her skin feels more sensitive, why her thoughts slow down, why her posture straightens. It is because your presence carries consequence. You are not just another man. You are a man with weight, not the kind that overburdens, but the kind that grounds. And in your gravity, she finally feels what she didn't know she was missing: centeredness. She does not want to run from you. She wants to approach, but not out of impulse, out of curiosity, out of surrender, out of the need to be near something real. Your swagger doesn't say, "Look at me." It says, "I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not waiting." That stillness, anchored in your chest, laced through your steps, says, "I've already arrived. Whether you notice me or not is up to you." And she notices. Oh, she notices. Not just with her eyes, but with every sense in her body. It's not just desire, it's longing. It's not just attraction, it's magnetism. You have become the silent storm she never expected. Not dangerous, but unforgettable. She wonders what it would feel like to stand closer, to speak with you, to be seen fully. And that thought alone, of being seen by a man like you, is enough to send waves of electricity through her body. Because in your gaze, she suspects there is no escape. Not because you would trap her, but because you would understand her. And that is the true power of your energy, chosen one. It doesn't consume, it calls. It doesn't take, it invites what is already there to awaken. Feminine women don't fall for you because you manipulate. They rise for you because you give them a reason to lift themselves higher. You become the mirror of their deepest beauty, You become the reflection of their own sensuality, purpose, and poise. And that kind of awakening, that kind of electricity, it changes them. And so they return to their homes wondering what just happened. They replay your movement, your silence, your momentary glance, not because you performed for them, but because your existence left a trace. You didn't offer words, you offered being. And in a world of hollow noise, you became the man who felt like truth. Chosen one, by now you must know. Your presence is no longer ordinary. It is a force, not chaotic, not demanding, but deeply, silently commanding. There's a difference between a man who wants to be wanted and a man who is already wanted simply for existing. And you have become the latter. You carry the frequency of a man who does not chase, does not perform, does not flaunt, and yet every feminine heart in your orbit pulses with a quiet ache to be seen by you, touched by you, felt by you. You don't need to seduce, because your presence already does what no practiced line or flashy appearance can accomplish. It brings her home to her own body. And what makes you so deeply magnetic is that you have removed need from your desire. You want, yes, you feel absolutely, but you do not grasp, you do not beg, you do not pursue from emptiness, you desire from wholeness. And that is what thrills the feminine. Because when you look at her, there is no demand in your gaze. There is depth, curiosity, weight. Your attention is not scattered. It is sacred. And that sacredness is what makes her body lean closer without you ever taking a step. She is not drawn to you because you chased her. She is drawn because you anchored yourself in such unwavering masculine energy that she felt safe enough to reveal herself. Other men often leak their energy, toss it around like sparks hoping something will catch fire. But you, chosen one, you contain it. You know the power that simmers inside you, and you have mastered the art of keeping that power under control, not out of suppression, but out of devotion to your own dignity. And it is that quiet mastery that makes women ache, not because it would consume them, but because it would awaken them. You are not a storm. You are a flame. And flames don't chase, they transform whatever gets close. She doesn't understand how you do it. How you can sit across from her, say almost nothing, and yet make her feel more alive than she has in years. It's not what you say, it's what your presence allows. She becomes more feminine in your company. Her laughter becomes softer, her words slower, her body more attuned. And all of it happens without coercion, without pressure, without manipulation, because the true thrill of your presence is that it asks nothing from her but makes her want to give everything. And that is where your power becomes nearly unbearable, for her and for those watching from the outside. You do not compete for attention, yet you receive it. You do not assert yourself loudly, yet your silence rearranges the energy of the entire space. You do not boast of who you are, yet every woman you meet walks away whispering, "He's different," not because you touched her, but because your energy did. And energy, chosen one, never lies. You have become the rare experience that feminine women treasure, the kind that they replay in dreams, the kind they talk about with their closest sisters, the kind they try to explain but can never fully translate. Because you did not perform, you did not impress, you simply stood tall in the stillness of your aligned masculine essence, and in doing so she bloomed. Chosen one, there are echoes you leave behind that no hand can create. Women cross paths with you and exit the encounter different. Sometimes they don't even realize it immediately, but days later, weeks, months, years, they will remember the way your presence made them feel. Not flattered, not conquered, not played. Remembered. There is something eternal in the way you carry yourself, something ancient that touches the feminine not on the skin, but beneath it. Your walk, your stillness, your depth, these things don't just thrill her. They reconfigure her. And you never had to touch her body to make her feel touched to her core. You see, chosen one, your energy is not just strong, it's structured. It has form, boundaries, direction. It does not spill aimlessly, does not beg for witness, does not collapse in the face of feminine power. It holds, it shelters, it leads. And when a woman encounters that kind of energy, it creates a memory that lives in her body far longer than any fleeting interaction ever could. She walks away more herself after standing in your presence. Because your alignment didn't consume her, it invited her to align too. There are men who thrill with their touch, There are men who impress with their words. But you, chosen one, you move worlds with your presence. And the feminine, in all her intuitive wisdom, responds to that kind of power with reverence. She may not know your name, she may not speak to you again, but her feminine body will not forget you because you didn't approach her as a hunter. You stood before her as a mirror, and in that reflection she saw the possibility of being met, not in fantasy, but in truth.